Kosha here, your favorite IP attorney, going live with the struggle bus. How to come up with a name for your program or your next offer that's actually available for trademarking. As many of you have come to me and shared with me countless times, you are coming up with new offers left and right, left and right. But oftentimes you are struggling with coming up with a name. So I wanted to come up with five ways that you can assist yourself and your brain and coming up with a name as it relates from a trademarking perspective. We always want to begin with the end in mind. So even though this new offer, you probably haven't made one sale, you probably haven't done a whole plethora of things, I want you to have these 5 tips. So let me know if you can hear me in the chat. I want to make sure that everything is good and peachy keen. I have some new equipment that I am testing out, so I want to make sure that everything is working a-okay. All right. So before I get into where some of these 5 tips on how to consider trademarking with your next program and offer, I want you to just drop in the chat or the comment section where you are checking in from, so that way I can know. Let me know if you have something brewing for the month of January. So many people have swore off resolutions. They just got new goals and intentions and the whole 9 yards. So I am all for it. I myself am not for resolutions. I don't believe in them because I always break them. So there's that. So anyway, just go ahead and let me know where you're checking in from, and then we can go from there. All right, all right. So let's get into it, right? So without further ado, if you're watching the replay, thanks for the replays. I get a lot of that. People do watch a lot of the replays. So one of the key things, oh, I didn't introduce myself, did I? Maybe I did. I don't remember. Either way, my name's Kosha. So because you could be watching this on YouTube, Facebook, wherever on Al Gore's internet. My name's Kosha. I'm a business and intellectual property attorney. I've been doing this for nearly 10 plus years, and I assist entrepreneurs to make sure that they are not robbed of their income producing ideas. So that means I make sure that whatever you're creating on the internet is actually protected and secured from others people copying and robbing you of your genius. Okay, so let's get into tip number 1. Tip number 1, okay? Tip number 1 will actually be for you to actually identify. Tip number 1 would be for you to identify. So let me put this at the bottom. Tip number 1, identify your program or offer target audience. And I'm typing this as I go. I want you to do that. All right. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 1 would be to identify your program or offers target audience. What do I mean when I say that? Because like we get that a lot. Identify your target audience. Identify your target audience. What exactly really does that really mean? So one of the things that really means is you need to consider who this program or your next offer is really for. And this will help you choose a name that audience will resonate with. You want to be able to choose a name that your targeted audience will be able to identify and calls them out immediately. You definitely don't want to just pluck a name out the sky or have something that it takes a person a few seconds to actually kind of figure out what it is you're actually talking about, because that is a struggle, and that will also help hinder you from coming up with ideas as it relates to your program name or your offer's name. So you want a name that will actually stand out, and you want a name that will be unique. All right. So there is that. So that's tip number 1. Identify your programs off program. I'm having a struggle here. Identify your program or your offer's targeted audience. So that would be tip number 1. All right. Let's get into tip number 2. All right. So tip number 2 would actually will be the time when you start incorporating me into your stuff. You have a list of people, a potential names. I'm sorry. You have a list of potential names. And when you have a list of potential names, then you will come see me so we can do a trademark search. It is so important that you do not, and I repeat, do not start identifying with a brand strategist, coming up with domain names, coming up with podcast names, trying to get someone to design you a logo for a name that you fall in love with and unfortunately is not available. And I've seen this happen with so many people. They will come to me and say, Nicosia, I have this new program. I am excited. I'm ready. Boom, boom, bam. This is what it is. Let's trademark it. I've sold some stuff. I got my website. I know, blah, blah, blah. I'm excited. I'm excited. And then boom, they tell me the name. We do the knockout search and it's not available, or it doesn't qualify as a trademark. These are all the things that I want you to combat with the very first time in the beginning phase before you actually launch. So keep this in mind to incorporate doing a knockout or availability search in your process in the very beginning, as it will save you time, money, and energy. So that is one of the key things we always want to do, is to make sure we are incorporating time with Nicosia to tell me if the name is available. It will save you time, money, and energy in the end. And that's what we always want to do, is save time, money, and energy, because I don't want you to get so far in love with something and it's actually not available. I don't want you to get so far in love with something and in actuality somebody else is using it in the way that you would actually be using it. So then you're going to create the issue for yourself if you carry on with it. So let's just keep that in mind. All right. So let's go with tip number 3. So with tip number 3, is I want you to create a name that's actually unique. I keep saying it that way because if you are a Beyonce fan, or even a hater, you've probably heard the song Alien Superstar, which is really good on the latest Renaissance album. Definitely recommend you go check it out. But anyway, so tip number 3, when it comes to what I want you to do, I want you to create a unique and distinctive name. I want it to be so distinctive and unique that the audience, that, back to tip number 1, the target audience that you are calling out says, oh, it's me. She talking to me. He talking to me. They talking to me, baby. That's what you want to have convey. For instance, there is a program, Sales Academy. Oh, yeah, I got an issue with sales. That's speaking to me. I want you to be unique and distinctive as much as possibly when you come up with your name. All right. For your program name, we need to be distinctive. All right. So let's go into tip number 4. Tip number 4 is one that gets a lot of y'all. I've seen it happen to the point where it was debilitating, to a point where a person was just like, I just can't come up with nothing else. I don't know nothing else. All right. Like, I'm stuck. So we had to sit in the trenches, eat a few snacks, and then we were able to get out of the trenches. But it's something that happens a lot of you. Most of the time, you guys and girls and people in between are picking names that are just descriptive. For instance, it's like this bottle of water that I have. And y'all, if you know me, y'all, I'm always talking about drink your water, drink your water. Speaking of which, let me drink some water. You're just describing what you're doing. Literally, it's literally a battery shop. That which is literally be descriptive and generic, or something that doesn't signify that your brand. And oftentimes the people who are following me, you already have signature courses, you already have signature offers. So oftentimes your brand, this is something that's like a like what we like to call like a cousin or a step down, or maybe a step up. It could be high ticket. I don't want to, whatever. But either way, it's still orbiting the nucleus of your particular brand. And if that is the case, then I need for you to understand it cannot just be a descriptive thing. It has to be unique. Go back to tip number 1. It needs to be unique in whatever it is that you are doing. Okay. So the struggle bus is real. Oftentimes you cannot choose a name for your program or your offer because you haven't done enough time and research to understand who you are targeting with the program or the offer. Oftentimes you're on the struggle bus and you can't get off the struggle bus when it comes to naming, because tip number 2 You ain't come to see me with a list of names to even see if it's actually available, right? Tip number 3, you're on the struggle bus with choosing a name or a program, a name for your program or your offer because it is unique. It's not distinctive. It is literally just or run of the mill. If you were to tell me the name, I wouldn't know it was associated with your brand. I wouldn't know it was associated with anything that you have going on. So let's just keep that in mind too. All right. So let's get into the last tip. Tip number 5. We then went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tips. So tip number 5 would actually be to consider the long term and potential of your program name. All right. Or offer name. So I'm typing this as I go because my brain is functioning on high speed. I'm thinking like I'm already like 5 steps in. Anyway, ADHD. So, tip number 5, consider the long term and the potential of your program or your offer. So, I want you to think, how long am I planning to do this? Is this something that I intend to sell? Is this something that I intend to license? All of these things are quick little questions you should put either yes or no to when it comes to your planning. So oftentimes we are iterators, and I'm one of the same way. I will come up with an idea and I'm off to buying domain names. I'm off to setting Stripe subscriptions. I'm off creating lead pages, landing pages, the whole 9 yards, ready to take it immediately to market without taking the time to pause and follow these tips myself. And I'm guilty of it. And I'm a trademark lawyer. So I resonate with you that, hey, Naposha, I just want to get it out. I want to start selling. But if we take the time to really do this particular research and follow these tips, it would actually lead us down the road to longevity. It would lead us down the road to actually making more money. And oftentimes, the only time. That's what we're trying to do here. So, one of the key things that I want you to do is consider the long term potential. Are you naming your program something that's 2K? Like, for instance, Y2K was something that was very signature, and a lot of business and brands were Y2K prove your business, Y2K prove this and that. But as we can see, those particular names are not something that will stand out for long periods of time because they wasn't long term. That was just a blimp in the landscape of where we were in history. It's not something that was there for longevity. So I want you to take that concept and think something very similar when it comes to naming your program or your offer. Don't include something that you know will only be a blip in time. That means if it's just NFTs, even though NFTs will be here for a long time, it might just be a blimp and it might not be for the longevity. I want you to always consider these things when you're coming up with a name of your program or your offer because this can actually get you off the struggle bus when it comes to long term. All right. So it should be adaptable and it should be evolve as your business grows. And it should be a name that stands the test of time. For instance, Target has come up with many sub brands and subcultures, but at the end of the day, we still call it Target. Same thing with Coca Cola. Coca Cola has extended a plethora of soda and water and beverage lines, but at the end of the day, we still see them double C's and we know exactly what it is. When you think of your new program or your offer, I want you to have that same longevity and that same potential as these other legacy based brands. Okay. So let's recap for those who may not have missed one. You're writing fast, you're taking notes, the whole 9 yards. Hey, I'm still here. All right. I don't know what happened with the camera, but I'm still here. I want you to take notes and I want you to be able to understand what these tips are to get you off of the struggle bus when it comes to naming your new program or your offer. All right. So let's go back. Let's run them through. So tip number 1 was to make sure you identify your program or your offer's target audience. There are a lot of subcultures. There's a lot of sub places on Al Gore's internet, like Reddit threads and different community online communities where you can actually get a lot of research to help you understand and identify your target audience for this particular program or offer. Okay. So tip number 2 is you need a relationship with me. You need to come see me with a list of potential names for your program or your offer so we can go ahead and knock them out and make sure that they are actually available. And we do this before you go see your logo designer, before you start purchasing domain names, because I'm talking to you. I got 50 bajillion domain names and ain't got nothing to do with them. But either way, I want you to come see me before we go see the public with any of these potential names. All right. So tip number 3, once we do get the idea down, get that list knocked down, I want us to actually pick one. And the one that we pick, it needs to actually be unique and distinctive. It does not need to be descriptive or generic. And that brings us to tip number 4. The name that we actually choose for our program and offer does not need to be descriptive or generic. It does not to be any of those things. All right. And that brings us to the last tip, the very, very last and most important and crucial tip would be for us to consider the long-term potential of our program or our offer. That means, are we selling this offer to someone else? Are we licensing this offer, meaning we still maintain ownership, but people pay us to use it? These are another revenue streams that a lot of us are not tapping into, and that'll be a video for another day. But at the end of it all, I want you to consider the long-term potential of your program or your offer. All right? So I hope that you all have found this helpful. I know it is Thursday at the top of 2023, but I wanted to give you something that you can tangibly walk away with. I want to give you something that you can tangibly use right now as you are creating and iterating, because this is usually the season where new things are launching, new things are coming down the pipeline. And I want you to actually be protected and secure in this new income producing asset for you. So with that said, I have something coming down. And if you want to be on the list to be one of the first to know about this new program that I have offering to actually help you with you coming up with a name and doing the search, especially when it comes to this tip number 2, go ahead and reach out to me in the DM, say me, comment. I'm gathering up a list. I'll have a form set up real quickly so that way you will be the first to know when it launches. This will be a nominal monthly subscription where you'll have the ability to come to me and say, Nicosia, I have a list of few names. Can you tell me if they're available before I launch? And this will actually aid you in your process and get you off the struggle bus when it comes to choosing a name. So reach out to me. I'm on Al Gore's internet all over the world. You can also go ahead and email me here. You can email me. Let me go ahead and put that on there. You can email me at Nicosia at andersonlawfl.com if you want to be included on this list. I'm only offering this subscription. It's going to be very, very nominal just to see, test it out, make sure we got some beta testers. So if you want to be a beta tester to get off the struggle bus when it comes to naming your program or your offer, just come email me or drop me a comment or DM and I will add you to the list. All right. So if you have a question, you can go ahead and drop it. I'll linger for a little bit as it relates to naming a program so we can get you off the struggle bus or whatever. I will definitely do that. If you have a comment or a name that you're considering, just go ahead and let me know. And I will do my very best to answer your question. If it gets a little too personal, I'm going to may pull you off to the side, be like, hey, look, we may need to do a consultation. But either way, the struggle bus is real when it comes to choosing a program or a name. I literally struggled. I have something else coming down the pipe, and I literally struggled coming up with a name. And I used to say this all the time in videos, and then finally it hit me. Duh, that's what the name of the community should be. But it wasn't obvious to me right away. It took me a long time. I did do a search to make sure it was available before I fully committed. I did follow my own advice. And I was so excited to see it was available when I did the search. So I want that same excitement to come for you. So just make sure you reach out to me. If you have a question, I am here for the next few minutes. If I don't get a question, then I'm going to log off. But either way, I thank you for watching this, whether you'll catch it live, you watch the replay. Thank you for giving me your time today. Super duper excited. And that's about it. All right. Happy New Year. Top of the day to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.